Hi, I am Daniel Clemens, the Hema Vtuber. I am a frequent browser of r/WMA, the Hema subreddit, and I have frequently seen on there people asking advice on how to get into Hema as a beginner. And I thought I would make my own video about it. So, a lot of people, when they're first starting out, they'll ask questions like, uh, what sort of what sort of sword is good for somebody of my weight and height, or what's a good source to study? And I want to tell you that that is of a secondary importance out of anything. The most important thing when you're first studying HEMA is to find a club, any club. So HEMAalliance.com has a club finder, and that is where I think you should check out first. You can check, your local Facebook page, other things like that, but Hema Alliance Club Finder is definitely like your first stop. And when I say any club, I mean like even if you've got your heart set on learning the rapier, if the only club in your area is teaching longsword, go to that one. In fact, if the easier club to get to is teaching longsword, go to that one. Because a longsword club that you are able to attend frequently will make you a better rapier fencer than a rapier club that you can only attend every couple of weeks. If you don't have a club near you, you've got some options. Personally, what I did was I joined the Cataran Society online program to learn Scottish broadsword. There are plenty of other online programs. I haven't really looked into too many of them, but I do like the Cataran Society. If you don't want to do an online program and you don't have a HEMA club near you, then you can look into any sort of other weapons based martial arts. So that could be, modern Olympic fencing, Filipino eskrima, different sort of karate. Well, I know that when I was studying karate, they did have a Okinawan Kobudo class on the weekends. Of course, there's kendo, anything like that. Just anything where you've got a actual experienced instructor to lead you through your first bit of training, even if it's not the weapon that you want to learn. Now, once you do that, and you do want to begin practicing the weapon you want to learn, then you are going to have to start finding your own sources and studying them. My personal advice for this: get one source that is modern, so like a modern interpretation of the ancient source. This is Guy Windsor's Capoferro workbook. And the reason you want a modern source is because they're able to use their own words, like they're able to explain it in a way that they know they are able to communicate. They don't have hundreds of years of translations and colloquialisms that have been lost to time. And they are also able to put in a lot more pictures in modern workbooks than they were able to put in older ones. Because, like, the older workbooks, you needed to carve a wooden block for every single picture. This thing, no, you just put a picture in a slideshow and talk over it with your silly VTuber model. Anyways, uh, yeah, I like modern sources, and you should also find a translation of the ancient source that your modern source is working on. I like these because you were able to actually see like the layout that the master intended it to be in, and you get to see like from the master's actual words. So if you're studying out of the Guy Windsor book, you are studying Guy Windsor's interpretation of a Capo Ferro technique. When you get to the Capo Ferro book, you are getting what Capo Ferro was actually saying. Obviously, there's a you know problem with translating. You can't really always get a perfect translation. But if you are translating Capo Ferro from original Renaissance era Italian, you're already more than a beginner. So once you've selected your uh, source and weapon to study, then you are going to need safety equipment. Now, the club you go to is probably going to have a list of safety equipment that you need in the first place, so I'm just going to give you a small opinion of mine. The fencing mask is something that you cannot skimp out on, and it should always be the first safety equipment that you ever purchase. You can get, cheap gloves. You can take the bruises instead of getting a gambeson, but a fencing mask is non-negotiable. You need it. You cannot be risking your eyes by trusting that your training partner is not going to hit you. I tend to do single stick, so I don't normally wear very thick gloves. Sometimes, if I'm doing, synthetic longsword, I will wear lacrosse gloves essentially. But yeah, you cannot risk your eyes or your brain by skimping out on a actual fencing mask. Next up for equipment is actual swords. This is a picture of Purple Heart Armory beginner set. So it's got two basic trainers. These ones are sabers. They're made of hard plastic. They hurt to get hit with, but like not a crazy amount. They're so much cheaper than steel. I would definitely say start with synthetics when you're just starting out, because it doesn't make sense to buy $300 steel sabers when you haven't really started in the hobby yet. So a lot of people will say that you don't really need synthetic sabers because you can just start out using wooden dowels that are the correct length. Those people are right, but I think that getting synthetic trainers gives you like it'll make you more excited to train, and that is a huge deal. And if you don't want synthetic, like if you don't want to deal with the heavy impact of synthetics, you can always go with the padded sabers. Like this is the Go Now padded Dusac. This is also from Purple Heart Armory. They've got padded sabers, padded Dusac, which I use for cutlass training. padded longswords. They even have a padded montante. And these ones, I would say that if you really can't yet afford a fencing mask, you can get these ones and a, goggles that can protect your eyes. I have taken these sabers full force across the jaw, didn't even bruise. I was perfectly okay. If you really are training on a budget, that should be acceptable. But even then, like, you probably should get a fencing mask anyways. You know, other than that, like, those are, two things that I would suggest for beginner weaponry. Of course, you can always get a single stick. I actually have a video on how to make those. I will have that in the description. And never skimp on the mask. If you are absolutely impoverished and you cannot get a mask and you can't borrow one from your club, then, I'd say this is an acceptable alternative. But still, you need eye protection. Other than that, I think a big thing for a beginner advice would be being able to train solo. And for that, I use something like this. This is a indoor trainer I made by cutting the tip off of a cold steel longsword and then duct taping a ankle weight to it. This is great if you don't have much of a space to do flow drills. So a flow drill is basically just stepping from, one attack to the next, yada yada yada. It's basically doing a kata with a longsword. And yeah, if you don't have a backyard to swing a sword around in, and if you don't have a room in your house with enough room, this is a very viable alternative. And if you think that this looks tacky to be duct taping a weight to some wood, then you can absolutely go get a specific trainer for these. They have those also at Purple Heart Armory. Man, this is sounding like I am trying to get a Purple Heart Armory sponsorship, but I'm really not yet. After that, another thing I use for solo training is a sword pell. This is basically a boxing, uh, what's the word? A punching bag. God, couldn't even remember that. This is a punching bag for swords. So what I did was I put, some 2x4s as a stand, and then some more 2x4s as a uh, pole up in the ground. And then I wrapped the post with rope, and that's also an old sweater. And I will use that as a target when I'm doing solo drills that are more than just flow drills. So when I'm actually hitting something, this is what I will use when I don't have a friend to hit. And that is it. That is what advice I would give to somebody who is looking to get into Hema, especially somebody who, might not have all that many resources, because I don't think that Hema should be limited to your ability to afford most equipment. A lot of it can be practiced on your own. Thank you very much for listening to this. I hope you found some of it interesting. I hope you learned stuff. And you know what? If you are getting into HEMA as a beginner, I hope that someday I run into you at a tournament, and then you can show me in person how well this has or has not helped you. Thank you very much. Please remember to like and subscribe.